Welcome to another episode of the RAG podcast. And for those of you who don't know, the RAG stands for Recruitment Agency Growth. Since early 2019, I've been interviewing the most successful and innovative recruitment owners to learn how they rose to the top of their game. In season 7, I'm going to be having raw, authentic, and insightful conversations with agency owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, people across the industry. And I want to be learning about their ambitions, what's happening behind the scenes in their agencies today, and their plans to navigate difficult market conditions. I'll be bringing you the latest and greatest recruitment stories every single week on Wednesdays at noon across multiple platforms. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the RAG podcast. On this week's show, I was delighted to be joined by Laura Clark, the CEO of OA Group. Originally Osborne Appointments, the business was actually started in 1995 by Laura's mother. And in this episode, we discuss Laura's journey of watching her mum as an entrepreneur, being inspired by her mother, deciding to join the world of recruitment at the age of 19, and then basically convincing her mum to give her a job. And then the journey through having 4 children, navigating that as well as being a successful business person in her own right, and then negotiating with her mother to take over the business earlier in 2023 and buy her mum out. Everything about the journey up to that, how they negotiated it, how she felt, and then what's happened since. Now, this is a really unique episode. I've never recorded an episode with a female or anyone who's been working for their parents and then bought the business off their parents. It's a new theme for this show. But I'm sure there's lots that any founder can empathize with, because it touches on the relationships we build when we work with people for 10 or 15 years can feel like family, even if they are just a friend or a business partner or whatever. Laura is an incredible leader. She's got an amazing brand online. She's doing some amazing things, and I think you can learn so much from her. So without further ado, Laura, welcome to the RAG podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Sean.
Pleasure. Looking forward to this one. We spoke, was about a month ago about this and got it booked in.
Yeah.
And I feel like since then, I didn't really know you. We were introduced by someone, and I don't know if you knew me, but since then, I've seen more of you. I kind of see you more vocal on LinkedIn, and I've built like quite a big picture of the type of person you are pre-show. So I'm excited to find out more.
I'm interested to know what that picture is.
Well, I'd say confident, direct. I'll go through it, but you've put some really cool stuff on LinkedIn, which I really resonated with. Right, so I agreed with it. Before we get into any of this, the stories, etc., just give us the bird's eye view of OA Group, and that's people, what you actually recruit, locations, that kind of stuff, so people can get a picture of the business, and then we're going to go back and tell the story.
Yeah, so OA Group formed 2 separate sides of the business. So we have OA Solutions that deal with high volume clients that need a bespoke solution, normally on-site RPO, temp and perm, predominantly within warehouse and industrial temporary staff, alongside interim contract professional placements. And we have a couple of perm RPOs as well, where we encompass all of their perm recruitment. And then OA Recruitment is a brand that is more for SME businesses that need a personal touch, but without the big solution drive. So tends to be clients that use between 5 and 30 temps throughout the year and recruit up to about 12 times on perm.
Right. Okay.
So that's the kind of the overview of what we actually operate in. I've been in the business since 2008. Started off with 6 people. We are now around 50 people within the company. And it always surprises me because actually we just have some awesome people in our business, from junior consultants that have started with absolutely no experience that have worked their way up. And yesterday we celebrated 2 people that have been in the business 5 years.
Wow.
Right the way through to recruiting like recruitment gurus that have been in the business 20 plus years. So, just a really diverse bunch of people that are serious about recruitment.
And based, where are the offices again?
All around the UK. So we've got our head office in Welwyn Garden in Hertfordshire, where I am today. Mm-hmm. And then we've got an office in Milton Keynes in Bedford. We have on-sites up in Haydock, Emsall, Wigan. So really kind of UK based.
Okay, wicked. And you joined the business in 2008 as a entry-level trainee consultant, right?
joined the business in 2008 off the back of working in a telesales role, selling, which was really naughty in 2008. I didn't really realise at the time what I was up to, but actually I worked for a business that sold mortgages for 110% of what the people owned in terms of their home, which probably didn't help with the crash, but that's what it was like, wasn't it, back then?
Yeah,
To
yeah.
get a mortgage of that amount. Loved sales, and sat down with honestly a yellow pages of businesses and started calling, and that's how I got into recruitment.
Into, what was it known as, Osborne?
It was
So,
Osborne Appointments
yeah.
back then with the gold logo, which was
But it was your
very.
mum that started the business, right?
It was my mum that founded the business. So she founded the business in '95.
So what was that like, dynamic wise? So you knew she was a successful recruitment leader.
Yeah.
You like sales. Didn't you just need to say, Mum, can I have an interview? Or did she make you go out and interview elsewhere for, like, how did that all come about?
I promised I would go to university. Never went. What I told her was a gap year. And my mum is a phenomenal woman. Like, honestly, she's so astute. She's unbelievable. And from the age that I could work, I had to pay rent, which I would do exactly the same with my own children, by the way.
Yeah, I want
And
to talk about this.
I worked after school from the age of 16, whether it was in a restaurant, and then I got a telesales job. And basically, I convinced her and said, let me have a go. And she was like, okay, we'll do it for a few months. And I just started and I absolutely loved it. But working for your mum, there is a level of, you think, I do it without meaning to. You think when someone works with a parent or works with family, you get treated a certain way. I almost got treated in a really positive but different way. So I had so much more to prove. And it's really funny because only recently she's not been involved in the business. And there's people that work here that have been here while she was here that never knew she was my mum, that have actually sat in the same room as us and never knew.
And you didn't have the same name, did you? So there wasn't
We
the
don't
obvious
have the same name.
Yeah.
I remember once I missed my target by £7, and I would have got like £1,000 bonus for this particular month, and I didn't get the bonus. And I remember being in the car with her on her drive, dropping her off somewhere. Because the funny thing about my mum, she only recently learned to drive in the last 5 years or so, which is also really strange when you think about what her job was. She just got taxis everywhere. And I remember saying, I will give you £7 if you give me the bonus. And she was like, absolutely not. Did you hit your target? No, you are not getting your bonus then.
So what was it like growing up with a mother that was a recruitment business, or just an entrepreneur in general? Like, what was that? How would you describe that experience?
It was, I've never really thought about it before, if I'm honest. It was really nice to see I think watching her work so hard, which she did. She founded the business when I was 6.
Yeah.
And growing up with a working single mum when she first started the business was just really interesting. Like, I learned so much. I think it made me really independent because she wasn't like some of my parents, but some of my friends' parents that were there all the time to do everything for you. But equally, she was always very present and always really active. I used to love going into the office. When I was younger, she had like big fat computers, with like a fax machine next to it and a massive printer. And I would just thoroughly enjoy writing. I think she even had a fax machine when I first started going into the office. Not a fax machine, a
typewriter.
Pardon?
Typewriter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She just taught me lots about being independent and standing on your own 2 feet and working hard and work ethic and all of those things. So yeah.
And it is, they say like your kids will pick up on what you do as much as what you say, right? And you physically saw her working and you saw her office in the environment that she created. And do you think
I saw the ups and downs as well?
Yeah.
I saw the times that were hard for her and I saw the times that she had good times. And it's now funny because kind of going into where I'm at now, we have bad and good times like any business, right? And so you recognize some of those behaviors. She's a really massive inspiration, not just to me, but to actually most people in the business that have ever worked with her.
Yeah. And do you think you knew at a young age you were going to try and emulate her in the fact that maybe not in recruitment, but you'd want to be a successful business person? Is that something you kind of knew already as a young person?
I always knew I really liked business. So when I was at school, I was a bit of a pain in the butt.
Hmm.
But business studies, I would read the business book for fun.
Hmm.
Like I would enjoy all of the business theories, and I would enjoy. And I really sad, but used to get home from school, and I used to get the Argos catalogue and type in the product numbers, the price, and the page into an Excel spreadsheet for fun. Like, how sad is that?
Why though? What were you going to do with it?
I don't know. I just found it. I found it like I almost felt like if one day this book had burnt, maybe they'll come to me for the codes. I'm not sure, but I had
Yeah, like some
them.
kind of database developer,
Yeah,
not a recruiter.
yeah. And I do crazy stuff. You know, like I lived in this little village, and I remember my friend from school and I went into the shop and convinced them to let us sell stock they couldn't sell on eBay if we took a cut. So like we just used to. I used to do things that I could try and make some money from.
Hmm. Do you know what? I don't think I had that early on. I didn't have any
No.
inspiration. No, because I didn't have anyone around me. It was actually my stepmom. When my dad got with my stepmom when I was about 14, 15, and she ran her own business and she was running a cleaning company and she drove this little convertible MG. I don't think it was actually the greatest car, but it looked pretty cool when you were young. And then I saw the way like her house was full of leaflets, and I used to go leafleting at the weekend, putting them through doors
Okay.
for her. And then
Yeah.
my first job was licking stamps and writing addresses for her on a Friday when I was on my study leave in year 11.
Hmm.
And I think she was the first first person I saw, because I kind of just thought, I don't know, I kind of thought rich people were born rich. I didn't know anyone else at all that did anything that was worthwhile, like created wealth.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think if I'd have maybe seen something earlier, I would have had an earlier impression of what I could have done.
Yeah.
But even then, I still think I didn't. I did, like you say, I did a few things. Like I ran an event when I was at college that made about 500 quid by just getting people to a party and finding a DJ in a venue. It was dead easy, and I thought I didn't do it again. Don't know why, but I figured out little
So you
things.
kind of had that in you, I
Yeah, I had a
guess.
little bit in me, but not maybe
Yeah.
quite like yourself. And I wish I'd done business at school. I didn't even. I just thought, oh, why would I do that? Whereas now I'm like, I'd have loved it. I genuinely, I know I would have loved it. Um, so let's go back to the start of the job. Then did you interview like everybody else? Because she made you pick up the phone to other companies. So did you come in and sit down with other people and make sure it's the right fit?
No, I don't think I did. I think it was me persuading her.
Right.
I think she was quite against it at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think I remember having conversations like, "Go on, I think I'd be all right at this. Let me have a go. Let me have a go." And she was like, "No, go and get another job. Like, leave me alone." And I think that I kind of then used I'm going to go on a gap year, and I'd like a little try, see what I'm, see, see if I can do it. But the business when I first joined, there were very few people, and it was in 2008, so we were in the middle of a huge recession, and so I entered recruitment up against a lot of challenges. But being so young, I didn't realize there were challenges.
Mm.
I just thought that's the way that recruitment was. I had to make 100 phone calls to have one person that was recruiting, or every single candidate I spoke to. I remember like the number of people that were getting made redundant was insane. And but it didn't phase me because I knew no different. I think actually starting in that time probably was really, really important part of my career. Because I think if you start when the market's really buoyant, when you come up against a hard time, it feels really, really hard. Whereas I started in such a challenging environment.
Were you like coming out of school 18, 17,
Yeah,
18
I
at
was
that?
like 19.
19.
And I did temp, I did perm, I did any job. I remember the first placement that I made. I can tell you the guy's name. I still talk to him on LinkedIn every now and then. He was a policeman, and I placed him into a sales job for a digital printing company. And I remember just trying to convince this woman to see her for an interview because I'd met this guy and I thought he was pretty cool and could
Yeah.
sell. And it was the first placement I ever made. And I thought that was really cool. Like, I've just found someone who was a policeman, a job doing something completely different because he didn't love it anymore. And I think sometimes the level of naivety when you're that age doesn't allow you to have preconceived ideas. Whereas when
Yeah.
you get older, you might think, well, God, that person couldn't do that job because they've been doing that 10 years or they're stuck in their ways. But when you're younger,
Yeah.
you don't have that level of life
No,
experience to
it's like a
see that.
sport. They see that young Wayne Rooney in football come on the pitch at 16 and just shoot from anywhere and
You have
score. And
no fear.
yeah, they
Or
do
I didn't
things
have any
that later
fear.
on in their career they wouldn't do because they've already planned. They've already saw problems within the future. And even when I started Hoxo, I wasn't young. I was 30, but I'd never worked a day in marketing in my life. So I launched a marketing agency with no experience whatsoever. I knew the recruitment industry, who were my clients, but I didn't know, I'd never done a day in the industry. So looking back, what I did was awful for a few years, like terrible the first couple of years, if I think about it. But I wouldn't have, if I'd have knew then what I know now, I probably would never have done it. Like I would have been like,
But who does something from day one and is brilliant at it?
no. And they say if you're not embarrassed by the first version of what you did, you started it too late. So you need to go out and do it. So what were you actually recruiting in the early days? What was the type of jobs? Was it
Mainly commercial, and I'll be really honest with you, actually, anything.
right? So it was like a
Anything.
generalist agency, a local base.
Generalist
Was it
agency,
local
yeah.
based though?
I remember going to a client and I picked up like 20 temp jobs in a sandwich making factory. And just to get in through the door, I had to have my hair in a hairnet, take all my makeup off, take my nail varnish off, and wear a one suit and get washed down. And I was like,
Wow.
I'm doing this. And come back with like 20 temp bookings for the next day. And I was like, right, let's do it. It was anything. It was a really small recruitment business, very successful, but just
Yeah.
kind of tiny to where we are now. And anything that someone would
And at
ask
that
me
point,
for.
you said there was like 6-7 people. So your mum was in the room doing the job as well, or was she? What was?
So we actually, when I first joined, we actually had 2 branches. We had Stevenage and Welling that were really close. And one of the first experiences I had was, because the market being so bad, we shut one of the branches, and then we all come back to Welling Garden. And yeah, my mum was really heavily involved, but I never really directly reported to my mum until later on in my career, when I think we were probably both adult enough to handle. Well, I was adult, not my mum, adult enough to handle that.
My mum was a driving instructor, and she taught me to drive. I mean,
that must have been challenging.
But that's the only way I can empathize or relate to what you've been through. She kicked me out of the car like 4 miles away from where we lived. Just no, I didn't even have a phone. I didn't have anything. She's like, just get home, get out. Yeah, it was like, get out, because I was that rude.
Did you pass on? Did you pass first time?
Second time.
Yeah.
But the reality of my my mum being my instructor was not like most people. Like she, it took me a year to pass, because I would have a Friday morning session that she'd move me out of the way for a paying customer, right?
Yeah.
So, and I would go out on a Thursday drinking at that age. And so it would just, this Friday morning was like, I was hoping she'd cancel it, and then she would cancel it. So I'd stay in bed, and then I'd miss college, and we just dragged it out. And I failed on something really basic, really minor, and then I sorted it out really quick after that. But I remember being rude. I remember not listening to her. I remember thinking she was nitpicking at me. Yeah. And it wasn't a pleasant experience. It was a lot worse for her. Like, she looks back and says it was, it's pretty bad.
I bet you laugh about it now, though, right?
Yeah, she was brilliant, and she taught all my mates, and she was known for being amazing. Like, she's the best female, the only female level 5 in Greater Manchester at the time, or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was like known for being amazing, and like I say, the funny thing, she had a with all my mates that was independent of me. And she knew things about them I didn't know, or she'd laugh at certain things. I'd be like, how do you know that?
It's quite an intense experience, isn't it, learning to drive? Because you're just one-on-one.
In a car,
really high concentration, yeah.
Yeah, and there'd be a few of my mates who'd be telling me how good they're doing, and she'd be like, no.
They're not.
They're all. And I couldn't admit it, but that was always fun. So how did your career progress? How would you describe, you obviously had a knack for it. I get the impression you were quite naturally motivated and quite talented with your communication skills. How did your career progress over the first few years?
So it's funny, actually. I was having a conversation this morning with someone in the business. I think I'm of a really strong belief. I don't know where this come from, right? But I don't think someone sits you down and never says to you, where do you want to get in your career and how can I get you there? Right? You have managers that are interested in what you want to do. They have appraisals, etc., etc. But I think the truth is when you ever want to do anything in your career, you have to go and do it. So for me, I remember I worked long hours. I would work at home. I really loved it. It wasn't because it wasn't because I had to, or it's because I actually really enjoyed it. And then when I was 21, so quite young, I fell pregnant with my first child. Went back to work when I was 22. My mum's going to kill me for saying this, but I remember I was getting paid £19,000 a year, which was exactly the same cost as my nursery fee a year to go back to work. So I remember thinking, well, the only way I can earn money is by commission. And I genuinely don't know if I'd have been as motivated today if I hadn't have had William, my eldest, as young, because I think I was very much of, I didn't want anyone to think, well, okay, my career was over because I'd had a child so young. I think it gave me the push to want to do better. And, there could probably be a number of key moves throughout the last however many years.
Yeah.
But honestly, I just would see opportunities. So, like, I don't know, if I thought that there was a certain desk that would look like it would make money, I'd say, right, do you think we should try this desk? Or if I remember, it's a really funny story, but we've got a lady that works for me called Roxanne. She's not going to mind me mentioning this. I think she's been here over 10 years now. When she first came in to register, I was in the room and she was so nosy. Like, we thought she was a spy. So we had these whiteboards with blinds that when we thought people would spy on us, we'd pull down the blinds so no one could see our client list and what we were doing. And I remember an email going around saying she's a spy. So we were all like secretly pulling down the blinds, thinking she was from a competitor. And then she left and we were all like, God, she was good. I was like, she is a nosy person. She would be brilliant in recruitment. We brought back in to interview and she's been here ever since and she's fantastic. So I think
Still
like just
nosy.
still was, oh my God, nosy as hell. Like, you can't get away from anything with Roxanne. Like, you
Go
walk
on,
in the room
Roxanne.
and she'd be like, have you had your hair done? I'm like,
Yeah.
how do you know where I've been? Like, leave me alone. And I think just seeing just tiny little moves. I don't think anyone has like a moment where they wake up the next day and they go, oh my God, now I've made it. I think
No.
it's just small things that happen throughout your career that you go, there's a spot over there that I can do something better for. I'm going to go and do it. And I also think, like, I think my mum helped me with this. I was always told, you don't ask for a pay rise until you've done something that's better than what you're being paid to do. So, like, I was paid 19 grand. If I wanted to be paid 25 grand, I'd have to start acting like a 25 grand person.
Yeah.
And I've always had that mentality. Whereas I think there's a lot of now, like, well, I'm doing a good job, I'm employed to this, I deserve a pay rise. Whereas I think you always have to go the extra mile.
No, I completely agree with that. Too many people think by doing the job that you've given them to an
That you're
average
paid to
standard,
do.
automatically they should go up. It's like, no, that's what we hired you to do.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not that simple. What, if you don't mind me asking, like, how was the dynamic at home when you're 22 with a newborn and you're trying to work? Was your partner around? Did they help?
Yeah.
Like, how did you manage that?
Yeah, so John and I are still together. We've
Right.
got now 4 children.
Amazing.
And he's honestly just always been fantastic. I think he's always I've always said to him, my career is like never comes above my children, never comes above him, but there are moments in time where it's my focus. And I know I wish sometimes I wasn't as much like that. I know that I don't mean that to sound funny, but like I come to work and I love everything that I do, and he's always been brilliant at supporting. And I think the children I mean, with 4, it's hard, right, to give them all attention. 4 children, you know what it's like with multiple children. But it's just about splitting your time. And it was about, for me, showing them that you can achieve what you want to achieve if you work hard.
Did he work full time, or did he take more of that carer relationship?
No, so he's got his own business. He's really successful in his own right. Yeah, we're really lucky. We've got so much family near us. Like, my mum, despite having her business, she's always been brilliant with helping us. And she is now, like, now she's not working as well. She's like insane. Like, just yesterday, she was at my house doing my washing for me. She's like brilliant. Wow. We've got so much family. John's got 3 sisters that are all amazing. I've got a brother that's great. So, like, my dad, we've got so much support. We're really, really lucky for that.
And when you're younger, having kids as well, your parents are younger, right? Everyone's younger, so the energy around you is probably greater.
Yeah.
Like, we're 37, my wife's 37, just turned 37 on Saturday, and we're lucky that all of our parents are still here. But I don't know that many people at my age that that can say them and their partner, all the parents are still here. Like, it's kind of getting to that age where it's more difficult. We're lucky that we do get a lot of support. But Lauren's mum had a stroke 5 years ago, so she's completely disabled in a wheelchair. So my father-in-law, her stepdad, cares for her 24/7. So they can't do a lot with the kids. They can help a bit, and they live on our road, which would be amazing. But my parents have moved; they're 45 minutes away from us now. I've never lived near my mum since I was 18 when I left home, but she's down the road now, and she's taking that opportunity to see the baby as much as possible, which is amazing.
I think it's tricky when you've got babies as well. Like, William and Ronnie, who are now 12 and 8, they're pretty easy. Like I can pop to the shops and drop them at my mum's and
Is it William or is it Billy?
we call him
Is it
Wills.
William? I
Wills,
imagine
yeah.
Billy and Ronnie would be quite a scary couple when they're older.
I
Like,
quite like the name. I
don't
like
go
the name.
near them two.
No, no, I really like the name Reggie, but you couldn't have a Ronnie and a Reggie, could you?
I've got a dog called Reggie. But
Yeah, so I think as well, like I felt like I had something to prove. I think I felt like being, I mean, a young mum, but not that young. Like some people have children much younger than that. But I think I just thought, okay, well, I'm not going to let it stop me. I'm going to make sure that I can still achieve what I want. And I don't do that. I think that's just, I don't know, it's just inside. You have that, that desire.
How did your career evolve in terms of billing and management? Because again, I get the impression you would have been a really strong individual contributor. You'd go out there, you'd win business, you'd fill it, you'd make money. You know, you got that drive to make commission for your family. How did it? Because it's always the debate, isn't it? Like in your career, do you become a manager? Do you not? I remember being almost forced into it. I didn't even want to do it, but I was billing so much that they were de-risking me a little bit. And I thought, well, there's a skill set I don't know and I'd like to develop. So, you know, it was a good move for both. But I remember it was a touchy subject at the time.
Yeah. I was, I don't know whether to tell this story. I really wanted to manage right from when I was younger because I love it when people do well. And actually at the detriment of my own billings, if I could share clients or jobs, or as long as I've always had the mindset that if 5 people are doing brilliantly, it's better than one person.
Yeah, it's a good way of looking at it.
But I was an absolutely awful manager when I first became a manager, to the point where, and bear in mind, I think I was around 24 or 25 when I started managing people. So really young, way too young. I don't know how that happened. I think I just, again, nagged my mum long enough that I was like, give me a chance. But I was terrible. And learned very quickly that to get the best out of people, they've got to be happy. Whereas I just thought, well, if you're not good at billing, don't be here, which is completely the wrong way to look at it.
It's such a classic way of looking at it. And I was probably the same.
Yeah.
Funny,
I was like, well, if you're not billing, don't talk to me, and I'll focus on the ones that are. Whereas now, you know, you can't be that way. But there is some horror stories of things that I used to.
See, I got it. I had an interesting. My first hire was to this day was my best hire in that business. He's still a good mate, you know, and he was really good. So I thought I was brilliant. I thought, this is fucking easy. And then I went through loads of people that I wasn't. And I had that classic, you know, you're not as good as me mentality. Like you've got to be this good, and you're not. And probably jumped in and filled. I used to fill jobs through people, so it looked like they were doing deals. I'd be like, phone that guy, here's the job, and phone that guy and tell him you know me and do that, and then put your CV like this. And I'd basically just
but that's training. That's good.
It is, but then you step back and they haven't actually thought about any of it. So you've just kind of almost operated through their hands. They've just typed up your words. So I learned the hard way a little bit on that way, because I went away for a bit and I remember thinking, they're nowhere near the level that I thought they were.
Do you think sometimes though, in recruitment, and I see it now in our business and just across the industry, you can have an exceptional consultant that could bill and do brilliant work, be brilliant at sales, help candidates, but if they don't want it, it doesn't matter how much you want it for them.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's a common mistake. You meet a personality of a type of person where you think, oh my God, you would ace recruitment, but they don't want to put in the work. And recruitment is hard.
Yeah.
It's not easy. You know, you have, I've been on the phone this morning, you think you've made placements and candidates pull out on the day they're meant to start, or the clients reject, and you just want to kick your head against, you know, a brick wall at some days. But you have to really want to do recruitment to be good at it.
No, I agree. I 100% agree. And I think, but it's not necessarily something you really want to do at the beginning.
No.
So it's trying to keep someone on the straight and narrow long enough that they figure that out, but also not too long that you both waste your time.
Yeah.
So when did you start to realize that maybe you were going to take over the business, or that you maybe entrepreneurial vibe, whether it was you going to do your own thing or whatever? When did that start to click and start to take some form of shape?
I don't think there was a day. I always had ideas. So when I joined the business, we had a director that I kind of reported into for a period of time. We always used to have ideas together around things that could make the business more money, ways in which we could be better for our clients. I remember doing some crazy stuff. We had this project at one point called Nighthawks, where we decided that we would bring in a bunch of people to call our candidates late at night when they weren't working to see if we could get better candidates than our competitors. So I think it was something that just evolved. And I realised that if you stop and think about what you're doing and try and find ways to do it better and then get that across your business, you all collectively take a step forward.
Yeah.
I've always been interested in targets, financials. I've always been interested in, I know you're making £1, how can you make £1.50? What can you do better to make that £1.50? I don't think there was a specific time. It kind of just evolved. And even now, to this day, you know, I still get involved in sales. I still go to client pitches. I still pick up the phone. And because I think, especially, I mean, I don't know anyone that I've spoken to over the last 12 months that said they've had a brilliant year in recruitment, right? Yeah. We've all found the last year hard. And I think it's good to sharpen those tools and be involved in your business, but also be involved in understanding what's going on at, you know, throughout your company too. So yeah, I don't think there was a particular time. I've always been someone who's wanted to be innovative and try new things and make the business better in some shape or form.
So how did, I suppose, when and how did the conversation start, though, that eventuated in the reality of you taking over?
So I remember a conversation when I was actually away with my mum on holiday and we were talking through the business. And I remember saying to her, I think we could do X, X and X in the next few years. And she was like, all right, go on then. And I was like, okay, well, if that happens, can I have this, a pay rise or shares or whatever? And she was like, yep, absolutely. And I was like, right, game on. There was never actually, weirdly, up until we actually got to the point where I bought her out, there was never really a formal conversation. We knew what the business wanted to achieve. And I knew that the business could do so much. Like, we had such a good group of clients. We had such good people. We had a really good reputation. Been going since 95.
Yeah.
I was the one that was always like, well, not just me alone, people within the business, like, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? And then this happens and this will happen. And there were a lot of loose conversations over many, many years. And it wasn't up until right towards the end when she decided she wanted to take a step back from the business that we kind of got into a more formal conversation.
When was that? When did she say that was the case?
So that kind of happened slowly in terms of her involvement in the business. So probably I would say the last maybe 3 years or so, she got involved at board meetings. She got involved in the budgeting. She was really heavily involved with the finances, which has been something that I've really had to learn since she's not been in the business. But there were like more formal conversations towards the end of last year where it was like, okay, you're now really, you know, doing your own thing. Can I have it? Can I buy it off you and go forward in what I would like to do? And that
were you running the business at that point?
Yeah. So I was in the role of running the business, but she was still such a great support. Like even now, I say to her, "Can you come in and help me with, you know, the cash things that you don't think that you need to do when you're running a business, like the cash flow?" I know that sounds really silly because obviously it's very important, but there are so many challenges when you have a business that you don't foresee, whether it's, I don't know, like corporation tax has gone up or NI's going down and the national living wage is changing and all of the finances, the P&Ls, the budgeting, the cost line. Then you think, okay, I've made X amount of profit this month, but you haven't because the money's not been paid. Yeah. And then a client goes bust. And then just all of those things, she was really good at kind of, I say shielding me from. I was the salesperson. I was like, give me the number we need to hit and I'll make sure we hit it. And then she was in the background going, okay, well, I'll make sure the money's actually coming into the bank. So we made a really good tag team. So when she left, I kind of have had a bit of a shock to the system in terms of how much time it actually took to do the job she was doing in the business, but she made it look so easy. I was like, it's easy. Don't give me a handover. Off you go. I'll got that.
Really?
It's much harder than I thought it was, yeah.
I'm interrupting today's episode to give you a message from our brand new sponsor. Now, this company are called Untapped, and everyone knows that Hoxo, through this podcast, I've explained that we've built our team internationally, heavily in South Africa, okay? And I get questions all the time from clients and people who listen to the show, like, how have you done it? What was the process, etc.? Well, I've partnered with a business that can ultimately reveal it all, share it all, and help you do the same, right? Because look, it's been a tricky year for the sector, and many of people through uncertain times have had to streamline operations. However, accessing low-cost resources internationally has proven to be a bit of a cheat code for some people, including Hoxo. But anyone who's tried it, like us, it's very difficult, a lot of work, process to get it right. So this company, Untapped, are one of the hottest companies in the market. They've helped Hoxo, they're helping our clients. And they specifically look at companies in the UK, US, Middle East, and Australia transition to using remote individuals and building full offshore sourcing and recruitment solutions. So they source talent pools from places like South Africa and the Philippines. And we're talking about experienced talent here. We're not talking about graduates with no experience. This is like people with 3 to 5 years recruitment experience, and integrate them into your UK team. Okay. So they work remotely, but plug into your UK team. They put around 3,000 candidates per month through an intense 4-stage interview and online testing process to find the top 1% or 30 people and secure these people for work with recruitment agencies like yourself. All candidates are benchmarked against UK competency frameworks and the way in which you would hire in the UK. So we're not talking about cheap for the sake of being cheap. We're talking about international, experienced people just living in lower cost locations. So it's a really simple process. If you want to work with these guys, you pay a deposit to kick off their search. They then provide a candidate shortlist in 14 days. And then you can put people through your own process to hire them permanently, or there's a freelance option. So if you just want to try before you buy, they can employ them. You pay a daily rate and it's a freelance option. Untapped are totally transparent with all the salaries and fees. But, we're talking about you'll still pay about 70% less than a UK equivalent in that role. So it's a no-brainer to complement your existing team, to handle surplus demand and ease cost pressures. If you're not using this to rip up your business and rebuild it with global resources, then you're probably going to fall behind eventually. So due to demand and capacity, they're only operating on a waiting list right now. So if you want to be part of their waiting list, go to www.tryuntapped.com. Okay, www.tryuntapped.com and check out their information. Make sure you say that you listen to the RAG podcast, because they'll do you a very special deal as well. Right. Go and check them out. Back to the show.
How hard was it to negotiate a deal with your mum? Because it's your mum, right? It's a bit, but she does sound like she's always separated it a little bit when she was even that £7 story, she wasn't just giving you stuff. So I imagine she's thought about it quite, it took the emotion out of it.
She did, but it's still emotional. I think even if it isn't your mum, it's still emotional. I've given my whole career to this business. It's like a baby, right? You're very emotional about it. And she's done way more than I have. So it was not just a business to her. It's like in her blood. So we kind of take a step back in terms of the actual sale. We had a few years ago, we introduced a non-exec director into our company. And that was probably one of the best things that we ever did for our relationship, because sometimes you're not sure if your opinion is actually, you don't know whether you're arguing your opinion because it's a good opinion or just because you want to win an argument. And so we introduced a non-exec director who sat in the rooms for most meetings and just helped navigate conversations about where the business was going. So when it came to the MBO this year, he was really heavily involved, and we had other people come in and out. So we used like a finance company, we used a lawyer, and we had lots of different opinions that didn't sit on either side of the table. And there were some things that I loved about the deal, and there were some things that I thought, oh God, I'm not sure about that, but it was fair. And I think that's what business, whether it's with your mum or with it's a business partner, that when you've worked with someone for like 15 years, they do become like your family anyway.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just need to have a level head and someone who can give you an opinion that, whether you like it or not, is the fair answer.
So what you got to was what you believe, you both agreed was fair.
I think it's more than fair. And this business would not be here without her.
Yeah. And when did it go through? When did you officially take ownership?
It actually went through one night when I was asleep in bed. How strange is that? So we were signing all of the forms. It was earlier this year. We were signing all of the forms up until like 10 o'clock. And we were really worried there was a budget announcement coming, and we were concerned that they would change tax laws that would have changed her part of the deal. So we were like, we've got to get it past this. We've got to get it through before this day. And I go to bed at 8 o'clock. I'm like a really early bed person. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to stay up and sign these forms and get this across. And at one point I messaged the lawyer that got it across the line. I said, Chris, are we all done? And he messaged back, and I'd fallen asleep. And I'd woken up to a message saying, congratulations. And I was like, I thought I'd be like on a boat somewhere having champagne, celebrating. I just got up the next day, got ready and went back to work. It was like the most surreal thing.
How did your mum respond?
I think she felt really emotional about it. I think she loved it because she's like, we joke that she has spent more time on a plane this year than she has actually on the ground.
Aww.
But she's just absolutely loving it. But I think I know she wants to go and do something more now. Like she's having some time out and she'll get involved in businesses in one way, shape or form, whether it's in recruitment or doing something. She's had some crazy ideas. But I think she felt really happy and proud of what she'd achieved, but equally like a bit of her had gone, maybe. I'm speaking on her behalf, but...
No, I mean, the amount of founders who've sold on this show that have told me how they felt, majority said it was a bit underwhelming and that they didn't expect to feel how they did. And there's a little bit of piece of you that... What did one guy say? Like, he couldn't believe how quickly everything stopped. So 1 minute... his emails are just pinging all the time. He's getting calls off people. It's just nonstop. And then the next day, because the deal was that they would walk away. It wasn't that they'd stay in for a year. It was like literally the next day, their comms get cut. The phones don't work. And that's it. And he said it was like dead silence.
Yeah.
And some people crave that, and others, especially the type that build businesses, don't. And so what I've found from most of the people I've built in this network is that they go again in some way. They do something else, whether it be an NED gig or whether they launch a new business. It's that second horizon.
Yeah.
Which I think is really important and interesting for people to know, especially those that are coming up in the journey now that want to. I mean, most people listening to this are saying one day they'd like an exit. It's like, realize that actually whatever age that is, you're probably still going to have energy in the tank to do something else.
And sometimes you're just chasing something that is just a goal. So whether it's a number or a time, you get to it and you're like, I don't know what that was about,
Yeah.
But, she makes me laugh and we were joking with her last week. She came to our Christmas meal. She's coming to our conference next year. And if anything, she can behave even more naughty than she used to because she's funny, a really, really funny character. But now she hasn't got to worry about work the next week or whatever, so it's really nice to watch her be she's still involved in the business.
She probably still does worry about you.
She
like,
probably does.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
and she still really cares about it. And I think if there was any way that she could have hoped that the business had gone, would not be a sale, would have been staying in the family. So I think it will always be really close to her heart, as long as kind of I'm involved as well. I think it's in the
good news for you as well is the IP is still in the family. So if you need it's not like you're ringing up some person you bought a business off in a trade sale, or it's a bit like when you buy a house. Like I bought my house and I bumped into the seller, and I was outside showing my parents, and he came out of his house like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "I just bought your house, mate." And then we changed numbers, and he was fine. But I remember when I moved in, there was loads of little snags and stuff. I kept texting him, and I did. I know it. He was like, after a bit, he's like, just speak to the agent.
It's old Justine, Sean, get on with it.
Yeah, leave it alone. So
it's actually, do you know what? It's nicer now with Mum and I when it comes to work, because I can call her for advice and we have better conversations. Like, we always got on really well when we worked together anyway, but because she's got a different perspective, because she's not worried about, for us, for our business, I don't know about other recruitment agencies, but January, February and March are normally our quietest time. So you always go January, February, oh God, is it normal? What's the market going to be like? And then it picks up. So I always remember that used to be quite a time where we were like, oh my God, is everything going to be all right? You just naturally are when you own a business. Whereas now she gives me really good outside opinion. I lean on her. I almost think I probably don't have something to prove by not having to lean on her too. So I can pick up the phone to her at any point. She's so good. Yeah.
And did you keep the NED in the business after the exit?
Yeah.
So is it just you and that guy now?
Yeah. So we have, myself, the NED. I've got 2 directors within the company and a finance manager at director level.
And how would you describe, like, post-acquisition vision? Like, what are you trying to create? Like, what's your plan?
I spent probably the first 2 or 3 months thinking, what the hell? What am I doing? That was, I'm in like loads of debt and I've got a business and I've never done this alone by myself. So I think I spent probably 2 or 3 months, weirdly, with a real, not lack of confidence, but I thought, what have I done? Like,
Yeah.
I had a really good thing going. We had a really profitable business. I had no big bills to pay over the next few years. And all of a sudden I was like, I'm in a lot of debt. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear,
Yeah.
Sean, but I swear
You
quite a
can
lot. So
swear
I'm
as
trying
much
to
as you
correct
want.
myself. Shit, I was in
Yeah.
a lot of debt. And then I thought, do you know what? Actually, let's just have some fun with it.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't care about getting to 200 heads in the business just to say that. I really want to make sure that we create a business that means something to the people that work in it. You know, that we are serious about growth, and I want to look in 5 years' time and go, oh my God, that person is now this job, and that was because of OA, not me, the people within OA, the training within OA, what we offer to our consultants and staff. And I've got really, you'll like this, I've got really passionate about our brand, and it's a tricky one because we don't want to lose all of the history that OA has, but it's almost like going, okay, how do we put a pin in that, carry that along, but then be what we are growing into? And so I've done loads more work with marketing than I've ever done in the past. But in terms of what it looks like, I don't want to get greedy. I like being a good business and being fair to everyone in the company. So we won't grow. I know lots of people that grow for vanity and nothing other than that, and that's not what we're about. And just having a really sustainable place to work that people come along and go, oh, hey, you're doing something really cool.
Yeah. We decided last year that there was 3 things that had to be evident in our business, otherwise we wouldn't do it anymore. And it was, we had to have a happy team.
Mm-hmm.
We had to have happy customers. Like we had to be delivering at a level that was, and we had to be making profit. Like, because one, without any of those missing, I just don't think it's a viable business. Like, if you're not, you can be doing it without making any money, and what is the point? Like, literally, what is the point? Because you're not going anywhere with that. But equally, you can be delivering. We were delivering some services that we didn't enjoy, and some that feedback wasn't great, and we definitely had too many services we were delivering. So we trimmed it right down to we looked at it like the Gordon Ramsay goes into a restaurant, and what does he do? He always strips the menu back. He says you're better off doing 4 dishes amazing than 10 average. So we've done that, and we're seeing the fruits of that come through. That's meant we've had to trim the team down because we haven't got the need for the people that were delivering the services that we don't want to do. But it just feels like such an amazing business going to next year that we've built, and the people around us. And I don't know, this time of year is a funny time. Like you said, like January, February, March is often slow for most people.
Mm-hmm.
And you will have that fear that maybe it won't bounce next year, but you've got to look back at historical data and think we've always got through it, right? Even in the worst years, we've always got through it. So keep the people and you will.
Yeah. And I'm a nightmare for change. I love change. And I think as the business has got bigger, I've had to realise that you can't walk in a room and change things as quickly as what you used to be able to without giving people like a complete freak out, especially when you're not talking to them and you just decide one day you're going to do something different. So, but what that has meant is that in our business, when we do need to change, like this year, when we realised the market was slow and we needed to make some changes and we had to explore different avenues in terms of how we can make money and all of those things, it meant that everyone that works in this company are really open-minded. You know, like there'll be nothing that we go, have you thought about this? Where they'll go, oh no, without thinking it through. Every opportunity that we try and speak about. So I'm more about the destination rather than the journey. I feel like I know where we want the business to be in 5 years, but how we get there, I'm not massively precious about. Like, I didn't anticipate on taking some of the people that have joined this business on. They've been like opportunity people that have either reached out or I've been put in contact with, and they've been pivotal in the growth of the business. So I don't know what else that is going to show or in the next 5 years, but I know that we'll always do things that make sense but equally are good for the business and that might take us in not a crazy different direction. Like, we're not going to start recruiting scientists or anything like that, but just being really open-minded to what might opportunities.
How do you think you get that balance right? Because I'd say I'm exactly like you in that excites me, doesn't scare me, especially in business. I think I'm a slightly different beast in different parts of my life, but I think I've traveled, I've just got on planes, I've just kind of got on with it, and I enjoy it. Whereas, like, you're right, you can freak employees out with
You can.
and we've had that feedback that there's too much change.
Too much change.
Sure, I'm usually the guilty party. Like, my business partner is almost like, slow down, and I'm like, well, why not? So how have you managed to get that balance right, do you think?
I have like a small group of people that I talk my crazy ideas through, and I give them permission to tell me if they think it's nuts. It's like the amount of times I've had people say to me, yeah, really good idea. And I know after the idea has been executed and gone wrong, that I should have been told at the beginning that it was a bad idea, but people haven't for whatever reason. I think it's not because I'm not approachable, but people just like to say things are good and not think things through. So now I have a group of really good people that I say, right, I've got this idea, and 5 of them are told no, and 2 of them are told actually there's legs in it. And then before that, I almost have like people that I work for that tell me whether they're a good idea or not.
Yeah.
But equally, there's a group of people, everyone in the business will have just as many crazy ideas, and I do the same back. So I think you've just got to create an environment where you're safe to say your things before it gets throughout the whole business, and you think it through. Like, I've made some pretty big mess ups in my time, where I just thought I was right and went for it, and then afterwards gone, oh God, like, I'm now going to have to undo that, and that causes a lot of damage. When you make those mistakes, you quite quickly realise I need to hold up on what I'm doing. Now, like a few years ago, we did unlimited holiday pay, right? And I still don't think that's a bad idea, but it just didn't work for our business. You had some people that took like 12 days holiday and we were begging them. Some people that took 45 days holiday and we were like, hang on, the rest of your team is now being impacted. And there were some people that sat in the middle like, I don't know if I'm allowed to take holiday or how many days I'm not allowed to take. And it gave people anxiety. And actually it kind of created a weird environment where we had no boundaries.
We were the same. We did the exact same.
Yeah.
You think you're this cool...
Like, we're going to stop it.
You think this cool social chain type business, you're like, everyone, and we did the same, and we found that majority took less than they should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And people do need freedom within a framework. Like,
it's
like when you go on holiday and you've got nothing planned, people get anxiety. They're like, oh, what am I going to do all day? Yeah. Whereas if you've got a few loose plans to work around, people feel, all right, I've got a framework, you know? And I think employees, more than entrepreneurs. I mean, I don't care if I've got 5 days or 50 days. Like, I don't need that in my life to know if I can succeed. But yeah, totally agree with that. What about this whole like working from home and office? Everyone's different. Every business is different. How have you guys took it?
So we have a mixture. So my view is, I think recruitment is a people job, and the way that I have watched myself learn and watched others learn is by listening to other people do the job and overhearing, that was a brilliant conversation, or next time did you ask that, and I don't think you can do that when you're working from home, especially when you're starting in recruitment or want to develop. It doesn't mean that I don't believe in working from home. I do a few posts on this because I get quite irate about it, but I just think that when you're employed by a business, the business is the thing that everyone works for, me included, right? So you have to operate to what the business needs to succeed. Otherwise, you might as well be out of a job.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I understand that people don't like to travel or they like to be at home for their children. I've got 4 children myself. I completely get it. But I think to actually improve in recruitment and do a good job, you need to be surrounded by other people doing it. I do have people in the business that work fully from home, but they are quite established people that do go out on the road and do get on teams quite a lot and train. So I don't know, I'm mixed views. And I also have this other part of my brain on this topic where I think I'm not sure long term it's good for your mental health. Like, we are social animals. We like to interact with one another face to face. It releases endorphins in our brain. Like, it is chemically really good for us to work from home. And I think long term, people will be affected by working from home continuously over a long period of time.
Well, it's that whole social media, debate as well, isn't it? It's like, in some ways it's connected us more than ever. We can be FaceTiming across the planet, we can be WhatsApping, but in another way it's separate. It's made us all a bit more lonely. Like, it's
Totally.
made us all a bit more silent. I mean, I work from home. I love it personally. I think my business remotely works, but we have to be very, very, very organized. We have to only hire certain types of people.
Yeah.
And look, there'll definitely be areas that are not performing maybe where they could be because of it, but there's other areas that I think it's a trade-off, and we've gone all in on it. But I mean, if I feel like it wasn't working, I'd make the change, and I think it's a bit important to keep a view on the
Yeah.
business and
I'm
be
not like
open-minded.
your business is obviously very successful. I just also, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Sean, but there are many kind of moments in my career where I'll be standing next to someone and go, "Oh my God, I'm having a real challenge with this client," and they'll go, "My uncle works there.
Yeah,
Let me give him a call," and then I get him. And you miss all of that because I really struggle with like planned. I just say really struggle with planned conversation. If you're having a Teams, you know what your agenda is. You jump on, you're off in an hour, it's done. But those little moments in between where there's magic, like whether it's an introduction or whether it's an idea or whether it's just finding out how someone is and actually going, "You don't seem yourself today," and they go, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you asked. This is happening." I just feel like I'm not quite sure where that goes when you work
I
from
agree.
home
Yeah,
all the
I
time.
think it is a big game of balance though, and it's like, you've got to work out for the 30% you just named. I could probably find another 30% of moments where the commute was shit and I came in a different mood and I felt stressed and I missed things that were important, and actually being stopped 5 times on the way to another meeting ruined the afternoon for me, and I didn't get things done and I wasn't as productive. So
Yeah.
like, if I like the balance personally of working from here, I'm on Zoom all bloody day, so I'm literally never on my own. And then I go and meet people once a month or whatever, and for me it works. But I do not have trainee recruiters in my business, and I believe you're right within the business model you're running. I believe you're right. I don't disagree. But it's such a difficult, and the bigger challenge is that debate around the older, more experienced recruiters that are 30s and have kids and have actually enjoyed working from home because they know what they're doing. And how do you keep them engaged? Because you need them around the juniors. But
Yeah, you do. You need them to train.
to mandate them 5 days a week, you might end up losing them to the
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone's got the answer to that yet.
I think it's just about being agile, right?
Yeah.
So we've just taken on a guy to join our business that I've known for 5 years, and I've wanted him to work here since day one of meeting him. I was like, "Come on, please," and he just told me to do one. Managed to convince him, and he lives up in Leicester, works at home by himself. We've got plans for him to do different things within the business, but I'm not adverse to it. I worry about it. I think it's probably the way to put it. I just worry that you lose so much good stuff by having people just singular working. But I get it. I don't have to commute for hours. So I've never really experienced that challenge, and I've got 4
being
kids
a
at
remote
home.
like a regional business is different, a completely different game again.
Yeah.
What one thing we talked about previous to the show, which I just wanted to bring up, was this gender equality conversation, right? So, a big part of, I've mentioned this, I don't think there's that many females running recruitment businesses, and I haven't, it's reflective on the guests I've had on the show in 5 years, right? It's probably 20%, less than 20%. But I remember when I mentioned
females.
Yeah, I think less than 20% of all my guests have been female.
Wow.
Of leaders, and they're not all founders, but majority are in the most senior roles. And I remember when I mentioned it to you, and you were a bit like, I don't want to lean on that. And I thought it was a really refreshing and interesting take on it that I've not really heard anyone say. So just, can you remember what we were talking about? Now you were like, what I don't want to do is lean purely on I'm a female leader. Like, and you almost wanted to get away from that for the equality, if that makes sense.
I just look at things from two sides, right? So whilst I'm very proud to be a female leader, I also don't think that I don't want to categorize myself any different from a male, and I don't think men do it to women. So I wonder sometimes, I had a question recently on a training workshop that I did for another business where they asked me what my thoughts were on being a female leader. And it was a female that asked me, and I was quite opinionated in the sense that I think sometimes we limit ourselves by categorizing ourselves as female as if we don't deserve the space. because we're a female. But I don't believe it's necessarily men that do it to us as women. I think it's our own limitations. And I read this stat, and I'm going to be making this up completely, Sean, but it was something like 80% of men will apply for a job that they can't do, but they'll believe they can. Whereas 10% of women will only apply when they actually know that they can do it. And I think that as a gender, I hear it so many when I talk to females, that we limit ourselves based on our own beliefs. And I just don't like that. I think that women are just as able to do it as men. But yes, it's sometimes more challenging because it doesn't matter how much support you have at home. Like John is absolutely phenomenal with my children. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. Oh, sorry, I have to hit my desk. That happens that he necessarily might not know, whether it's school clubs and a card for a party and washing their pants and all of those kind of things. But I choose to want to do well, not because I'm a female, but just because that's the choice that I have made. And it's really, I don't know how, it's kind of like flipping this conversation on the head a little bit, Sean. But yesterday I was on the train with my daughter, Margot, my youngest, right? So I had to get her to the hospital. She's fine, but she's got some kidney problems. So I was going to Great Ormond Street. And as I was coming off the train, I was struggling to get the buggy off. And some man said to me, "Do you need a hand?" And I said, "Oh, do you know what? That'd be really good, thank you." And he helped me. And as I was walking off the platform, he said to me, "I'm sorry I didn't ask you earlier. I just wasn't sure whether I was allowed to or not." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "Well, I've offered women help before, and they have a go at me and say I don't need a man to help me." And I was like, I thought about it after, and I thought, God, why are we doing that? Like, if I needed to help someone, man or woman, I would help them.
Yeah.
But I think that we've got to be really careful that we're not creating an environment where men are frightened of saying things against a woman because we're a woman. I don't like boxing us in for that.
Yes, it's almost, it's not using the badge to create the equality. It's almost removing the badge. I'm a leader. I'm a parent. I'm a parent. I'm a leader. I'm on your level based on what I'm doing, not because I'm a female or male. I love that.
I think it's actually exactly what I think you hit the nail on the head there. We shouldn't be labeling ourselves, because that is actually causing more isolation than it is actually just saying, I'm doing it, female, male, whatever, you know?
Yeah. And it would be interesting if someone wrote male founder on their LinkedIn profile. Imagine it. Imagine where that would go.
You know, you get like CEO. I just don't.
It would be funny. I mean, I might do it for a day and see how much backlash I get.
Please do.
No, I haven't got the energy for it. And finally, like, you know, how do you juggle this? I mean, I've got, as I said, you know, I've got 2 stepkids. I've got a baby. I see what my wife's doing. I'm new to it. I've only lived with them for 2 years, but it's a genuinely, like, you know, it's a full-on job on top of your job. And you've got 4 kids and you're both leading businesses. Like, what's your secret to that? Because I think there's other people listening here that are like, I need help with that.
So I saw this meme a little while ago that said, life is like juggling, but you've got to remember that some of the balls that you drop are glass and some are plastic.
Oh, wow.
And that really stuck with me. You know, we were talking before this call, there are some things that you can drop and it's fine. You can pick them back up when you're ready and they will not shatter. Yeah. And some of them you cannot drop and you have to keep on top of. And I think you kind of have to constantly reevaluate what's glass and what's plastic. What is it okay to let go of at this moment in time, because it's Christmas and you've got lots of stuff on, or next, there'll be different times where different things fall into glass or plastic. But I think that's how I get through life, is I go, that is really important. I can't drop that school run. And I don't care if the meeting is more important. That's glass to me. Like, I've got to do that. And there are some things that I go, that was just a plastic one right now, and I'll pick that up when I'm ready again.
Wow.
I think
that's really, really, I mean, I can feel what you're saying based on my own experience. Like I told you before, like one of the things, even though I'm obsessed with change in business, like when it comes to my home life, I'm pretty routined, and like, you know, if it's 8:30 at night, they're going to bed. It's 8:30. It's not 8:31. It's 8:30.
8:30, yeah.
And I do this thing. I do loads of things. I've created this routine in the house, right? So we have Mondays are my stepdaughter cooks. 10-year-old cooked for us spaghetti bolognese from Gusto last night. It was incredible. Tonight's my steak night, and my stepson's helping me on a Tuesday. Wednesday we go to our in-laws. Thursday we have FFT, which is Fun Food Thursday, which was
love that. Before
the baby we'd eat out. Now we just get a takeaway. And then Friday they go to their dad's and they come back Sunday night, and Sunday night they've already eaten. So we have like a really clear plan, right? And every week they ask me, are we doing FFT today? I'm like, yeah. Every Tuesday, are we doing steak night? Yeah. I'm like, why do you ask me? And I literally will not deviate. Like, it's not like I'm going to go, nah, not today.
tonight,
And I make a fruit salad every night about 8:00, where we finish the night with like chopped up fruit. Every night my stepson says, are we having fruit salad? And I'm just like, yeah. Like, I don't, like, if you took that away from me now, I'd be a bit disappointed, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
And I don't know where that might come from. My mum was very like, if she said she was going to do it, she'd do it. And if she
Very
wasn't going to do it,
particular.
she wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I'm treating some of these things like glass when they don't need to be, but I don't know, they feel important to me at this point.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I completely get it. Like, get really, I'm just like a normal person. Like, you get worked up when the washing basket is too full.
Yeah.
And you start getting stressed, and you might miss a moment where your son goes, Mum, something really interesting happened today at school.
Yeah.
And then you hear the washing machine go off, and you think, I need to unload that washing because I've got the next load to do. And your mind is constantly like, there's this invisible load, I think, when you've got, whether you've got children or not, if you've got a business, everyone has a different size plate, right, in terms of what they can carry. But there are times where I have to consciously go, this is a glass moment. Like, the washing can wait. That's fine. This is a moment I need to listen. And you get golden times. Like, the other day I went shopping with my eldest, and he was moaning, I don't want to go. And I said, listen, this is an hour we're going to get where we'll go around the food shop and we'll have a really good time. We played a game around the food shopping. I shouldn't probably say this, but we were trying to put items in people's trolleys and seeing how much we can get away with. We had like such a good time. And I was like, okay, this is like a completely normal thing, like we're shopping, but let's make the most of it when you can. But it is constantly reminded. Otherwise, you just go through day by day, trying to get through what you've got to get through, whether it's football, washing, food, all of those things.
Do you have like you say, do you have times where you will and won't work then? So you've got to get the school run, you've got to get your business run, you've got to do, mum work stuff at night. Like, how are you juggling like an average day in terms of the time?
I tend not to work so much outside of hours, not because I don't want to, but just because by the time my day's finished, I just don't have the energy or time, and I don't work on a Monday. That's a strict rule. So I have my 2 little ones that aren't at school, drop my eldest to school, and have the Monday with them. But I'll still take a call if I need to. It depends what's going on. It depends what's needed. There's sometimes where I can disappear for a day and no one asks anything of me. And there's sometimes where I'll have to work 12 hours and people need me. It's one of those moments, I think, where you go, what's glass and what's not here,
Do you know what? That literally is a great way to end the show. I think that what's glass and what was it, plastic and what's glass? Is that what you said? They're the that's something I think across everything you've said here, the whole episode. I think that would kind of underpin. You've got to be agile. You've basically got to be committed to what's important, and you've got to be agile to know that you don't know it all.
Oh God,
You're going to make mistakes, but you keep doing the right things consistently in all areas of your life, and it'll pay off.
Yeah.
Laura, thanks so much.
No,
I mean it. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've enjoyed every minute. I'd love to get you back on in the future, maybe in this time next year or the year after. The business is going to be, 30 years old in 2025? Is that right?
2025, yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we get you on that? Do you know what month of the year it will be?
It was October.
Oh, that's quite a while away, but yeah, we could do it. Well, I'd love to do a 30-year episode. See what you've learned in that meantime. But look, if anyone's listened, wants to get hold of you, wants to ask any questions, maybe wants to work for you, is LinkedIn. I'm going to tag you in LinkedIn and everything. But is that the best place, or is there any other platform?
Yeah, I'll come back to anyone.
And you're open to having a conversation, even if you just want to pick your brains on some stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, thanks so much, and let's good luck between now and 2025.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, Sean.
Pleasure. Thank you as always for listening to today's show. I truly hope that you got value from it. Honestly, it's the only reason I take time every week to ensure that my audience, you guys, future and existing recruitment owners, you're learning from each other to make this industry that I love so much stronger. And today's episode is brought to you by my business, Hoxo. I'm the CEO and founder, and we're on a mission to help brand recruitment agencies and their people better. I want to help people have the tools to stand out in the most competitive markets in the world. We're currently working with over 350 recruitment agencies and 5,000 of their consultants right now, helping them to build their personal brands, to consistently win more business, attract talent, and just become that go-to recruiter in the market. Now, we do have a huge coaching program, but a lot of people don't know we also manage the brands of a lot of founders
and we can do the rebrand of that company organizational piece as well. So if your recruitment agency either needs help to look and sound exactly how you want it to, or your leadership and consultant level need to get out there and drive more traffic back to that website, to the business, and start using LinkedIn to generate more revenue, then you should definitely be reaching out to us. If that sounds of interest, please do visit www.hoxomedia.com or drop me, Sean, a personal message on LinkedIn. I love hearing from RAG listeners. I would love to talk to you. Look forward to it. So I'll see you again next week with another episode. Catch you soon.